Hello and good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon from Ghana, West Africa, and a great day to everyone that has joined us on this all-important webinar. We're grateful you could take time to be with us here for today's discourse and discussion, following our just ended one on sustainable finance. Grateful to UKGCC for putting it together and allowing us from KPMG to join. I'm your moderator for today. My name is Bernard Selikemchapasu, currently an assistant manager with KPMG in Ghana with more than half a decade's experience. I major particularly in governance, risk and compliance, and ESG services. And today's discussion will be bordering on a topic from ESG. In a minute or in a while, I will be introducing our speaker for today. We promise to have a very good discourse and share our insights on sustainability and ESG strides. So today we'll be looking at deriving value from good ESG practices, a win-win for businesses and community. We can all agree that ESG has gained some strides around the world, and to more often or more important than now, a lot of different stakeholders are becoming aware of this and are asking for more and more clarity on what ESG is, how they can integrate it, and how best they can come out on top using ESG to continue to do well in their businesses. So to that, basically the little things we'll be speaking about today. And in just a minute, I'll be introducing the speaker for today. So right about now, we'll be getting into the speaker's presentation on the topic for today. We will take a presentation from someone in business. Someone will give us their current view. We'll take one person, talk about how they are doing in businesses, what they've seen, the upsides of ESG, how they've been able to put it together to work. And then we'll come back to have a discussion. We'll take some questions. We'll use our question box to ask questions. We'll take contributions, and we'll have a very fruitful discourse. So our speaker for today is Osei Asensu Enchi. I mean, I smile when I mention his name because he's been, I said I have more than half a decade. I mean, I've worked under him for a long while over the period, and I've had to learn under him throughout. And what's been for me, I'm happy to hear that he's given a speech on this because he's helped a number of clients over the period, over the decade, to structure their ESG stuff, and he's definitely been seeing the win-win side for them. He's going to be speaking on our topic for today, and we hope to have a fruitful discussion. So thank you, Asensu, for joining us. And please take the stage now. Thank you.
Hi, Bernard, thank you very much for that introduction. And thank you, UKGCC and the whole community behind that for putting this together. It's really a pleasure for us to always come your way to share, to engage, and to understand some of these topical issues and see what value we can really derive from it. I'm particularly happy about today's topic, which looks exactly at what's at the core of ESG, and it's all about value. How can we leverage on this to create value, not just preserve value, but to create value, to sustain that value for our businesses and then for our community. Today, we are privileged to have on the call one guest of honor who is going to share her experience in terms of the practical impact that this has had on some businesses that she's had to deal with and all of that. So as we go through it, please note your questions. We have the chat box that is opened. You can put your questions there or you can note it. And then when it's time for Q&A, we will go through that section with you as well. So thank you again, and you're welcome to this session. So today, what are we looking at? Just some few things just to break this ice. ESG, as you and I know, has now become the game changer. It's just like back in the days where technology broke out, internet, and now we are looking at even Internet of Things and all those things. That is the position that ESG has earned in the world of business, and not just in the business world, but in the physical world that we live in, because where would we have our businesses if this world is no longer available for us to use, So yes, it is defining the service that we deliver. It is defining our business model. It is defining the markets that we play in. It's defining even how we run an organization. Because mind you, the G in there, which talks about governance, speaks to how we can operate and operate well. So today we have this few points I want to get through, understand why ESG even matters today, and then get some overview of some trends, and then also assess business and community benefits of ESG. And then we can look at some practical ways that businesses can also, take this game changer, which is ESG, leverage on it to benefit from it, as some other businesses, as we will go through, have begun benefiting from. So today we have this as our outline, why ESG matters, value of ESG to businesses and the community at large. How can we even unlock this value that we speak about for our businesses? And then also have some experience by our guest speaker today, and then we'll move on to our Q&A session. This is an interesting research that was conducted by the World Economic Forum about global risk, where they engage different stakeholders on what are the topical risks that as businesses and even as a world we are faced with. They do this every year, so it will be interesting for you to check it out. This was done for the 2023-2024 survey. And it's interesting how across different stakeholders, as you see on your screen, civil societies, international organizations, academia, government, private sector, put up these issues as the topmost risk that we are all facing, whether business, even as individuals. These are the risks that we are exposed to. And as you see, the color code, the ones that are in green are for environmental issues, ones in blue, economic, ones in orange, geopolitical, societal, and technology. You'd see that interestingly, across all the stakeholders that have been engaged, the top 4 risks that they all confirm for us in the long term, which is 10 years. So they do this typically for 2 years and then 10 years. For the short term and for the long term, we are all exposed to some environmental risk, which includes critical change to the earth system, extreme weather events. I mean, if you're in Ghana, I believe that you would have experienced some of these changes in our weather patterns that now it's even difficult to predict what is next. We are seeing lack of economic opportunities, making people move across just like that. I mean, I don't know what businesses you are coming from, but for businesses that we engage, one of the critical risks nowadays is the risk of staff attrition. People are moving out and we are losing talent. It's a big risk for us. How can we as business solve this risk? Or how can we resolve these risks that we are all exposed to physically and then in our businesses? One way that we can definitely do that is through this ESG concept, which we will definitely delve into. And then also, as a world, we all agreed that we have some goals that we have to achieve. I mean, on the back of these risks, we all set an agenda 2030 to achieve some of these goals for ourselves: no poverty, zero hunger, and all of that. Interestingly, when you check the statistics on where we are against these goals, it only tells that there's more that we can do. And we can do it individually, and then also as a business, and then even at on a large scale, the economy or government. But it's upon us as businesses and as individuals to take these goals as against the risks that we're exposed to and try to create a better world for ourselves. And that is what brings us to our topic for today, which is ESG and the values that businesses and communities can or are deriving from this topic, and how we can also leverage to do that. So this is a short video that I want you to pay attention, watch as we set the scene for our discussions.
What does ESG mean to your organisation? We think it's about being more purposeful, sustainable, and resilient. Having a positive, lasting impact on the environment and society. the podcast series, you'll hear leading professionals discuss both the opportunities and challenges of ESG. To help you find practical ways to integrate ESG into your business, to help create an equitable and prosperous future for all.
Great. I would love to hear some experience or something that you got out from this video. Maybe you can post it in the chat. What stood out for you in this video? I'll play it a second time, pay attention, and then let's engage in the chat box. What stands out for you in this video?
What does ESG mean to your organisation? We think it's about being more purposeful, sustainable, and resilient. Having a positive, lasting impact on the environment and society. In the podcast series, you'll hear leading professionals discuss both the opportunities and challenges of ESG. To help you find practical ways to integrate ESG into your business, to help create an equitable and prosperous future for all.
Great. So that's it for ESG. I think all that the video is trying to avert our minds to is the fact that through a good ESG practice, we're able to build a sustainable business. We're able to build a business that is resilient because, of course, we are exposed to some risks that you cannot even tell from the onset what they are. Just a little reminder. I know for most of us that are on this call, maybe we have some idea about what this is. But if not, and then also just to remind ourselves, what is this whole ESG thing about that is being talked about in boardrooms, in our media space and all of that? It's just about adopting some business strategies that is able to meet the enterprise needs for today, as well as stakeholders' need, but not compromising the needs of others. I think this definition is one of for me, the best definition of sustainability. To say that, yes, there's a need for us as businesses today to meet our needs. But however, we cannot do that at the expense of other people, at the expense of the next generation, at the expense of the earth, at the expense of the society that we live in, at the expense of the stakeholders that we are all engaged with. So it's a framework that has been designed just to help keep all of us in check and help to drive some investments into our business towards greater good. So it's in three folds: the environmental side, the social side, the governance side. Environmental, looking at the climate change, looking at the greenhouse gas emissions, our resources like water, energy, waste, deforestation, and all of that. Society and social, looking at the working conditions, impact on the community that we do business in, health and safety, our employees, even the data that we get from the businesses that we do. How are we protecting it? How are we maintaining the privacy and integrity of these data that we collect whilst we go about doing our business? Governance relating to our license to do business, our license to operate, in terms of, is your business ethical? Do you encourage ethical practices in your business? How diverse is your board, your leadership? Are you building a business that will go even beyond you as an entrepreneur? So these are the principles that are encapsulated in this whole ESG framework. So it's just not something you do. Now it's everything that you do and even more, because at the heart of this is the ability for us to sustain our business beyond us and then also get some value from it. Why has this become so topical lately? Because now you hear it everywhere. There are some few things. Number one is the regulatory pressures and legal requirements. Now, if you check our regulatory framework globally, there are more regulations that are coming. There are more regulations that are being churned out by the EU Commission, by different economies on how to safeguard businesses, on how to protect the environment, on how to protect the society at large. And therefore, this is driving more discussions around the topic of ESG. When we come to Ghana, for our different industries, the banks, the insurance, the Security and Exchange Commission, just about last week, issued one on green bonds. There are more regulations that are coming up, and because of that, it's making this a topical issue for us to discuss. Growing consumer investors awareness. Now, consumers, the dynamics with consumers and investors are different. What appeals to investors now is different. It's no longer just profit. It's going beyond profit to some impact that we are really realizing from the investments that they are making. And therefore, it's shaping and it's bringing home the discussions around ESG, which goes beyond profits. Competitive advantage and risk management. As we are into business is just about managing your risk. It's just about understanding what your exposures are and what initiatives you are putting in to mitigate those risks. And therefore, with the businesses that we run, I mean, risk exposure can come across from any point, from the environments that we operate in, from the people or the stakeholders that we deal with, or even internal processes, which looks at the governance. Stakeholder expectations, I think we've discussed that partly under the consumer and investor awareness. There are different stakeholders who are now looking at our business through different lenses. Employees want something different. Regulators are looking for something different. Our investors are looking for something different. And we need to have as a business a way that we can bring all these expectations and be able to manage it even much better. Technological advancements and innovation. Now things are changing. We are being efficient in the way we are doing things through technology. And because of this, of course, it comes with its own risk. If you check the World Economic Forum global risk, that was showed earlier. One of the key ones is cybersecurity. I think just about last week, there was a technological glitch in terms of the systems that are used to run our airlines and our hospitals and banks. And you can only imagine the impact that could have or that had on businesses and even the society at large. And therefore, there's a need for us as a business to be able to bring all these things together, to be able to connect it so that we're able to build a better and a resilient business for ourselves. Now, what do we see? As we mentioned, there are a number of issues that are coming up from different angles. These are some of the few ones that we just wanted to project about funding that is being made available to tackle some of the issues that we are exposed to. For example, if you look at the point 2 here, Brazil aims to attract about $20 billion for ESG projects using a $2 billion climate fund leverage. Asia Pacific investors already pay premium for higher ESG maturity targets. So once you're able to come around this concept, once you're able to accept, embrace it, integrate it in your business, there are definitely some opportunities and some value that will appeal to you. We have seen businesses also go on this journey and attract a lot of investments and a lot of opportunities, coming their way. Amazon, the likes of Dangote, the likes of, even when it comes to Ghana, Zoom Lion, most of our banks here have leverage on this principle to even access some funds that they are also on lending to businesses just to make it right. From a regulator's perspective, we've seen Bank of Ghana being very active in this space in terms of directing the banks on climate fund. I think about last month or so, they issued their draft directive on climate finance disclosure, which in no time will also become effective. So there are a lot of things that are happening in this space that businesses ought to, one, be aware of it, and then also be able to take advantage of what is happening and then get the value that they ought to derive from this. So we're just going to, for this next few sections, look at some of the benefits that businesses are getting or have gotten from embracing this concept, and how, as businesses or as entrepreneurs on this form, we can also leverage this concept to get some value for our businesses. The number one that we see come across a lot of the businesses that we deal with and engage is access to finance. I mean, business is about money. And once you have that money, you're able to even do more. And one thing that we have seen with our clients who go on this journey is to have this mindset that, okay, yes, beyond creating impact, how can it also affect my business directly? What is in it for me if I go on this journey? And this is what we have seen some of our clients get from this by going through this process and going through this journey. Number one is access to funding. Now, because of the risk that we faced, the slide that I showed earlier, and then also the goals that all of us have collectively agreed to pursue, which is the embodied in the SDGs that we looked at, there are a lot of funding that investors have made available to mitigate or to fight this risk, and then also to drive all of us to be able to achieve the goals that we have. And therefore, once a business is able to do right in terms of embracing, in terms of integrating this whole ESG concept into their business, they're able to tap into some of these funds that are available. And these come in the form of increased cash flow. So now, if you realize from banking landscape here in Ghana, you see a number of banks having desks for different things, renewable energy, having desks for even women-led businesses, having desks for specifically for agribusiness and all of that. These are funds that have been made available. And once as a business, you position yourself and you make ready to take on this framework and work, you will also be able to tap into these funds that are available for them. Investments. Now we have a lot of impact investment companies that are looking to invest in businesses, but of course, with the notion and philosophy that they do these investments with is not just for profits. It's going beyond profit to see how are we impacting our environment, how are we impacting our society, how are we helping to build a better business even for ourselves that will go beyond us. So there are also investments that are coming in. Reduced interest rates. We've had to work with clients that have gone through this journey and have been able to access funds at a very minimum rates. I mean, not regular commercial rates. And it's all because they have embedded these processes or this concept of ESG into their processes and are going by that. So nowadays you hear more of green bonds. Think as a country, in 2020, we issued one that was on the stock exchange. Banks have come up with some green bonds, and the likes of EcoBank and all of that. So funding is available, and once we position our business, we will be able to attract that. We spoke earlier also about impact investing. So in this impact investing ecosystem, there are a number of businesses, there are a number of foundations, number of stakeholders in that ecosystem that are looking to invest. Once you choose a route that is related to either the E, the S, or the G, any of those topics, there are investment opportunity for you to also leverage on. And then sustainability-linked loans. We worked recently with a client that was going for a very huge sum of money in the agribusiness. And for them, the conditions were clear that once you're able to meet these conditions relating to good environmental practice, once you're able to relate to one principle of child labor, of your working conditions, of improving your product, the rates that the businesses or this consortium of investors were given to them was very reduced. And that gave them that incentive to even do more. And it will interest you to note that beyond the projects that they got this funding for, they've been able to receive other funds that are being used to do even more things. And then also just beyond the funding, their practices, the stakeholders that they deal with, everybody is happy, and business is going on as expected. So these are some of the benefits that we can get as we take on this journey. One growing area also around access to finance and then funding for our business is carbon credits and offsets. So Ghana as a country, we have set up a carbon credit office under EPA. that is helping business to, you know, convert some of these initiatives that helps to reduce the emissions in the environment, convert these into opportunities that businesses are now really earning some funds from. I think this week or this last week or so, if you paid attention to the news, the Singaporean delegate was in town, and one of the topical issues they discussed was carbon credits, how businesses can support their need for offsets. And as a business, once you consciously, you know, embed some of these principles into your business, take on some of these initiatives, you'll be able to get some of these fundings that can really help you to reduce your funding need and then get more funds to do more things. We've also seen some benefits accrue to businesses in terms of reduced costs. I mean, financing is two sides, right? It's either you're getting more revenue, or as a business, you're trying to reduce your cost. And we have seen how businesses have leveraged on this principle or framework of ESG to reduce their costs. And it's just, sometimes it takes some small initiatives to do this. So for us, for example, as KPMG, sometime last year, we decided to, yes, beyond COVID and all this virtual work from home, we decided to put in a strict policy of having people work, let's say, 2 days out of the office. And it will interest you to know the savings that this has, or this small initiative has accrued to us in terms of savings on energy, savings on water, savings on data, and all of that. And that is the power, or that is the value that we can accrue from ESG if we are intentional about it. There's a case study. If you look at the Dangote's sustainability report that it issued, it's just mind-blowing on the savings that this business is making, just because it has intentionally taken on this concept and embedded it into the business. I mean, some of the few ones are the ones that we are showing on the screen in terms of the savings on their energy consumption, which is about 25% increment in efficiency of their production, savings of about 30% on their fuel cost. And when you accumulate all these things, it's great. And that is the message that you want to put across, that we need as a business to embed this whole process or this whole concept into our business to reduce some of the costs that we are incurring. Another one is on enhanced business reputation. Businesses, through this concept, is also building some great relationship with their stakeholders and enhancing their reputation in the eyes of their various stakeholders, being it their employees, being it the society that they exist in, being it their regulators. A lot of stakeholders around are getting to like and relate more to businesses that are doing more to save the environment, that are doing more for the society that they are in. For example, if you take the sustainability report from MTN, there's a lot when it comes to this corporate social initiatives that they have taken. And if you read the report, the impact of that the business is enjoying is great. I mean, right from their employees, where they get to be involved in some of the things that the businesses or MTN is doing for the society, great. If you look at some of the infrastructures that they put up in terms of the towers and all those infrastructure that they use to operate their business, and where they are sited, people are able to even stand in and protect some of these assets just because of the things that the business is doing for the environment. We have seen MTN also do much more even in the space of education, building schools, community, meeting the needs of the community with their boreholes or some responsible activities that they are doing. And all of this helps the business to even project the brand even much better. It helps to put the business on top of minds of the people that they deal with. And that is one great value that can be derived or is being derived from ESG practice. Improved employee morale. I've talked about one of the key risks that businesses now face that we want, as we engage businesses, we've come across which is on staff attrition. How can we even solve this problem? How can we attract and retain even our best employees? And one thing that the surveys have made us know is one way to improve this morale is to have them be involved in some of these initiatives. People want to go beyond, I mean, as accountants or as a firm here, people want to go beyond the numbers. People want to go beyond doing the accounting, doing the marketing, doing all those things, but to be more, do things that is impactful. And once you create that avenue for people in your businesses, it helps retain some of these employees. It helps to have them connect to the business beyond even just the work that they do. And this has proven to be great for our clients that we deal with. Again, if you look at the MTN sustainability report, it speaks about this initiative of MTN Yellow, where employees have commitments to do some work beyond their regular work, which is impacting society. And we have seen that based on the surveys conducted, the satisfaction that employee is getting from this is way more than some of the things that even you think about in terms of the benefits that are available to them. For us, it's been a similar experience. When you put up initiatives such as going to visit schools, going to we have some initiatives around helping students to read. When all those initiatives come up, the enthusiasm that you see around it makes you understand that, wow, these are the kind of things that employees want to do. And it brings them the satisfaction and helps them to even commit more to their businesses. So yes, there are more incentives, there are more values that are being accrued from this whole concept. As a business, you may be asking, how can we also take advantage of this? How can we make it work in our business? I mean, I run this business. How can I also leverage on this concept of ESG to get the value that we are discussing? So for us as KPMG, as we engage our clients, we typically would say that it's a journey. We discussed earlier that ESG means different things to different stakeholders. And if you are to go on this journey, you have to understand this concept and be able to meet that need for your different stakeholders. So we typically take businesses through these 4 main steps, which is diagnose, strategize, implement, and report. On the diagnose basis, on the diagnose pillar, one thing that I would say is that ESG is not a new concept. All businesses are doing something related to it, but maybe the issue or the observations that we've made when it comes to this is that people or businesses have not consciously, averted their minds to it, and therefore, although they do it, they are not able to have the impact that they seek to have. So we'd always start with them that as a business, you need to assess your maturity. Understanding this whole concept, okay, as a business, as a firm, where am I when it comes to doing some of these things in terms of my environmental impact? Where am I in terms of my social impact? Where am I in terms of my governance? Do I even have the right structures to run my business? My internal controls, are they okay? In terms of my diversity at employee level and even at the board level, is it okay? You need to understand all of that so that you know your current state and be able to build on better from there. Market positioning, of course, we are in business. There are definitely some competitors that we are in business with. You need to understand your industry, what is specific to your industry. What are some of the things that your industry competitors are doing? How can you also position yourself in the markets so that you'd also stand out in terms of your industry? And then this concept that truly underlines ESG, which is the materiality. Again, as I said, it will mean different things for different people. One thing that will probably work for our firm, KPMG, may not work for your business. And therefore, as a business, it's important that you understand what is material to you. Just as when we are doing our financials, we think about a material threshold such that you know that beyond this number, I'm okay, I can absorb this number. or beyond this number, it's a danger that I need to strategize for. Similarly, when you are going on this journey, you need to understand your material topics. So you can take any of these frameworks as we have discussed, even the SDG. On these SDGs or on this risk that was proposed even by World Economic Forum, what are the risks that I'm exposed to? What are some of the things that my regulators are looking for that if I don't do it, could put me out of business, or it could put me in a very bad position with my stakeholders? You need to understand that whole concept of materiality and define topics that aligns with your strategy, topics that aligns with the needs of your stakeholders, topics that align with your getting a competitive edge for your business. So once you've diagnosed your business, once you've come to understand and gone through this phase of assessments, it's not just enough to have a diagnosis. Even just as we all go to the hospital sometime, it's not enough to know that this is what is not going well with me. You need to move a step further to strategize to deal with whatever you have noted under your assessment or your diagnosis phase. And that takes us into strategy, that you need to consciously think through that, okay, these are my material topics. This is my position when it comes to the market. This is my level of maturity. What do I need to do to move me from this point to the other point? And that is all about strategy. How can I align myself to the ambition that I need to set? So typically what businesses will do is that you look at your stakeholder needs, you look at your competitive advantage, your strategy for the business itself, and even your delivery model that you are using to deliver your business, and then align that with some of these ESG criteria. You know, we spoke about earlier about funding that's available for the different things. So in your business, in terms of even the SDGs that we are all up against, which one of them relates to your business that you can promote? You need to have that alignment with some of these ESG criteria and framework, and then set your ambition. Okay, so as a business, noting my assessment or noting my maturity level, this is where I am, and this is where I want to get to. Set it clearly, and now you define the very things that you need to do to be able to get you there. And that is the strategy definition. It's not just a blanket strategy. You need to define your KPIs. You need to define the very, very, very small things that will help you keep you in check so that you can be able to achieve that mark. The third section is looking at now implementation. Typically, you'd have businesses that have or businesses that do this for compliance objective will typically end at the strategy, because once you have a strategy, you check a box and all of that. But to be able to derive the value that we are speaking about from this whole concept, you need to go beyond just having a book or having a paper that documents what your strategy is into actual implementation. And what are some of the implementations that we can do? It's just the small initiatives. Okay, so you know that as a business, you are exposed to some cost related to energy. You consume a lot of water. You have employees that stay probably far away. You need to assess yourself and then see which initiatives that you can take to address the need of any of these stakeholders that we have spoken about, and then also address, as we mentioned earlier, the ESG criteria or ESG goals or the ambitions that you would have set. That will come in different shape and forms that you'd have to do. Sometimes it involves defining or setting up different products for yourselves. So now you see in our banking space, a number of products have been defined that aligns to this whole concept of ESG. You see products targeted specifically for renewable energies. You see products targeted towards women empowerment. You see products targeted towards good agricultural practices, a lot of things. So noting your business, noting the model that you are running, it may require you to change some of the product that you are offering. It may require you to do to have some changes in your business or operating model just to align with the strategies that you would have defined. The good thing about this concept is that even if you look at our SDGs, number 17, which for me is my favorite one, speaks about partnerships. It's difficult to go on this journey alone. And sometimes as a business, you may think that if I go on this journey, it will mean that I'm moving away from my core business operations. And that is where partnership comes in. There are certain businesses that are also set up for this kind of things. You need to collaborate. You need to work in partnership with some of these things to help you bring to life the initiatives or some of the strategies that you want to put in place. And of course, risk management, as I said earlier, business is all about managing risk. We cannot tell tomorrow. In 2019, 2020, I'm not sure any of us anticipated COVID, but then COVID hits. And we had to still, business had to move on. So in all these things, as you think through how to go about this journey, is also have at the back of your mind that things could go wrong. And therefore, if things go wrong, what is your fallback? What are the means that you can use to mitigate some of the risk that comes with this? You need to have that in place. And then the fourth, which it's also very critical, but we lose sight of in this part of our world, is about reporting. Sometimes businesses are doing so great, businesses are doing so much well in this space, but you not even find a report that speaks to that. And sometimes it's sad because if businesses are going in for some of these funding and going for some of these value that we've spoken about from investors that are looking outside and looking for a way for businesses to invest in, there's no information about whatever activity or whatever initiative that you are taking as a business to champion any of these points that we've spoken about. And that shouldn't be so. I mean, as you are going on this journey, you need to have at the back of your mind that you need to continuously engage your stakeholders. You need to let businesses, you need to let the investor community, you need to let your stakeholders even know what you are doing for them. Sometime last year, we did a project for one mining company that was interesting. The things that the company was doing for the community, that even the community that the business existed in, they didn't even know that they are doing this. And once they brought that to their attention, that, oh, we have engaged these people, even in the community as a business, we have a plan of, let's say, employing 10 or so people every year from the community. We have done this, we have done that, we have done that. I mean, just by communicating that, it brought all the whole agitations and the whole brouhaha down. And it's sometimes saddening that as businesses, although we do these good things, we are not able to report on. So to be able to unlock the value in this whole ESG concept, you need to embrace this part of it, which is reporting. And I believe that once we're able to go through this framework, once we're able to embed this into our businesses, we will stand a greater chance of unlocking some of the values that we've discussed and even more in our businesses. Thank you very much. At this point, Bernard, I will hand back to you for our invited guests session. Thank you.
All right. So thank you very much, Asenso, for such an insightful time. I will say that I can put together definitely maybe a summary that will capture everything, but I took some points, and I'll just do that. So I took from this that ESG is no longer a compliance metric. It's just no longer about a tick the box agenda for companies. It's about being intentional and collaborative on the ESG journey. And I love one definition of sustainability you gave that's going to stick with me. I think for the longest time, says sustainability is still pursuing today's business agenda without tempering or hampering tomorrow's opportunity or potential. And it's something that will stick with me. So in that, to say that ESG is not going to hamper business activities today, it's rather going to drive efficiency while delivering on that. In addition, I realized something you said, that ESG is not a journey that you embark on alone. There are too many, and there are so many people that help, stakeholders that help on that. And one of the things I'm particularly interested in, especially because of some recent work we are doing for SMEs, is their ability to drive in funds at a cheaper cost. And ESG is helping lead the way in that. So thank you very much for these pointers. I will go straight into introducing our guest speaker. We are more than excited to have her speak to us. I'm quickly going to read her strides in this ESG journey, and then we will welcome her to have us to speak to us and then tell us how things are going on as well. So the first thing is and she goes by the name Nabila Abubakar. She's a team lead at the Go To Initiative, a non-for-profit organization in Ghana that connects corporations and consumers to green innovations addressing Africa's pressing challenges. In this role, she works with a diverse team of volunteers and staff to execute projects and campaigns aimed at creating a more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable future. Prior to her current position, Nabila served as the vice chairperson of operations for G17 Global in Ghana, where she helped amplify the organization's impact and reach. She has also co-founded Sustainability Week Accra, a platform that brings together stakeholders to address sustainability challenges in the city. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy and Information Studies from the University of Ghana, has a keen interest in the future of AI and its relationship to ethics and sustainability. She is motivated to create a more equitable, inclusive, and sustainable world. Through her work at the Go To Initiative, she is dedicated to partnering with local and international organizations to drive positive change in Ghana and beyond. I'm particularly interested in what she's going to talk about because of two of her major interests. That is with AI and the connect with ESG. So without much ado, I want to welcome Nabila. Please take over and then take us through our discussion. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nabila Abubakari. I am team lead at the Go To Initiative. And the Go To Initiative is a not-for-profit in Ghana that attempts to connect consumers and businesses alike to green solutions that work. We started when we noticed that there was a gap in addressing consumers and organizations like youth sustainability goals. So often there would be these goals, there would be these metrics, but they weren't true to our realities. They weren't true to our goals, and they weren't as impactful as they could be. And so through our work, we decided to adopt an MO. And this MO meant that we didn't look outside for funding to drive our community engagement and our project, but rather we looked internally to people like you, basically, businesses. And how we saw this was in a world where there's a growing need for organizations, corporations, companies to adhere to ESG regulations, we could help them, basically. We could help curate local solutions that made sense. And they on the end, businesses creating values in their respective organizations or fields could also fuel our work. So fundamentally, we have worked with a lot of SMEs, and I would pick one. The one we're most closest to, it's a branding agency, Sculptor. And Sculptor is a very ambitious branding agency somewhere in Achimota. In 2023, we encountered Sculptor because Sculptor wanted to run their CSR project. And their CSR project, dubbed Design the Next, is one that attempts to revamp schools, government schools, that is. And a particular one was the government school in Achimota. And so they do that through design. And it looks like upscaling the school, so painting their walls, making them more child-friendly, and then impacting skills in the children as they do it. So what they do is they co-create the upscaling with the kids. So they reached out to us, and we were more than delighted to work with Sculptor on their Design the Next CSR project. As we did, we picked up something that the employees of Sculptor, they didn't just see the project as, another let's take this off the box event or attempt, but they really enjoyed it, and they really had a nice time co-creating Design the Next with us. So after that, we took it up from there. So what we did was along with the management of Design the Next, we sat down and we asked them, we sought to find out what their goals were. We knew that by 2030, by 2024, they wanted to impact 800 students in Accra. And they wanted to give them skills, measurable skills. On top of that, they actually wanted to boost their ESG efforts, especially in the environmental and social spaces. But, you know, you can imagine the business of business is business. It's the bottom line. And for an agency like that in Achimota, they just didn't have the luxury of resources, or especially human resources. So whether that was money or human time, they just didn't have that. So we found out where their issues were. We found out where the gap was. Along with a whole list of things, we started to work together. One of the things that we not helped them, but one of the things that we partnered on basically was marketing and branding for GoTo's community events. Now you'd imagine this: if on my end, as an initiative, as an organization, on our end, we could grow to the point where we have a whole marketing and branding department. And in this sense, you know, there would be people that we would pay to make sure that the work that we do is getting to people, to make sure that we are able to pull in community into our projects, right? But we didn't have that. There was no need to have that because we had Sculptor. And so although Sculptor has never really given us money, what they have done is they have been partners in making sure that the word of our project gets out to the respected stakeholders. So I often say that we co-create our activities with Sculptor. On Sculptor's end, the sacrifice is really small. It's still business as usual. It's business as usual in the sense that they make flyers, they make prints. These are the sorts of things that they do. And all they have to do is, given the timelines that we share, they often just know that, okay, in August, GoTo is holding master classes for SMEs. So it's already in their calendar where they make the solutions that we need to get to the community. And we, on the other end, we report them as partners. Because again, imagine we didn't have Sculptor. Then you'd have to have a whole branding and marketing department. So for us, we see Sculptor as our branding and marketing department. Sculptor gets to have ownership of these projects that we do without losing a dime. What have we seen happen in the time? I mean, GoTo has existed for a year now, although we have made great strides. It's been a year of doing great things. What we've noticed on Sculptor's end was, on their end, they have tried to reach out to organizations, pitch to organizations like GIZ, UNU-INRA, and these organizations would not give them an ear. Within a year now, Sculptor has 3 green organizations they're on retainer for 3 green organizations now. One is UNU-INRA, another is GIZ, and the third recently is Wahoo Fleet. Wahoo is an e-bike company. But basically, Sculptor is handling the branding and marketing for these companies because just by aligning with community work, just by doing projects, being actively involved in these projects by providing their services, these companies are now starting to see that, okay, this is a valuable company. So I have spoken, but I just want to tie all of this back to the fact that doing ESG, often when we speak to companies, especially the bigger corporations, they tend to see it as some sort of liability. But we know that for businesses, credit and being able to raise money and funds is an important part of your process and your sustainability. Aligning yourself with impact or embedding impact, embedding green, embedding environmental protection, embedding social protection, and having good governance, it actually raises the valuation of your company. And for investors, what we found out, especially with our SMEs, is that investors actually care about what the future looks like. And so the investor is thinking to themselves, which company is more aligned with the future? Which company is more positioned to take on the future? Which company is more likely to sway the 57% of consumers that IBM research has said is mainly interested in ethical businesses and ethical products? It's always going to be the company with a good focus on ESG. So for a Sculptor, these being able to sign on these companies, that's just one perk of it all. The other perk is that their employees are now taking more ownership of other stuff at work, and they're more excited to come to work now, because it's a young team at Sculptor. And so you would imagine that for a young team sitting behind a computer and crunching away, typing away, it's all right to make a livelihood, but at a certain point in time, it gets exhausting. But these people know that there's something for them to look forward to. These making impact in community and being able to be a part of these projects that on our end we do. So this is just an example of investing in ESG where you don't even have to put in money. And the reason why I started with that is often when we speak to, especially corporations and businesses in Ghana, the bigger ones, when we speak to them about ESG compliance, their minds go into, we're investing big amounts of money. Yes, you may, depending on what your goals and aspirations are, also depending on where you're operating and how your processes are, you may, but to a large extent, there's always a creative way to go about it that boosts your image. It makes you fundable. It makes you seen. It's easier for you to be seen, and it's easier for you to basically be consumed or to be purchased. So that's one of it. But just to conclude on that, there have been other companies where by sitting with management and often, again, with ESG, because of how fairly new the department is or regulations or the framework is, what we find also is that companies struggle with how to maneuver it and how to go around it. And that's why for me, Asenso's point about collaboration and partnership was just a brilliant one, because you don't have to do it by yourself. So for another company, which is Crescendo Foods, we started working with them. They had already been in operation, but how they situated themselves was they're a co-working space, a commercial kitchen, simple as that. But when we spoke to management, we found that it wasn't as simple as that, right? They had a big appetite for impact. So all we basically did with Crescendo Foods was look at the structure of the company. Where was the company? How could we structure things well? How could we make Crescendo appear to be as impactful as Crescendo was? Not appear. How could we structure Crescendo to be as impactful as Crescendo aims to be? Were we able to do it? Yes. And in about a month of positioning, they were able to secure a grant that is now pivoting them to create the impact that they really want to create. And so back to funding, what we have realized is there is a lot of money, grants especially, I like to call it free money, sitting down, waiting to support ethical businesses and ethical processes. But how do you get there? How you get there is by having good ESG compliance, and like Asenso mentioned, focusing on reporting. It can be daunting to start, but you don't have to do it all. There are organizations like ours, the Go To Initiative, who are right here to help you do it. But back to Crescendo, yes, now they're able to find funding. And it's not just companies like Crescendo, it's quite a number of them. And these are SMEs, in fact. So yeah, Not to bore everyone else on this call, thank you for having me, UKGCC and KPMG. I hope to connect with everybody sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nabila. That's a very, very interactive session. I know you definitely not boring us. I mean, we can hear passion speaking. So I did what I regularly do, a summary of things you mentioned to capture it, to capture what you spoke about. So things I took from what you said is it could be a daunting journey if you're new to it. But what helps and what reinforces something, as Tensu said, is that's why you don't do the journey alone. There's a lot of collaboration available. So collaboration goes a long way. You can forge meaningful partnerships like with Sculptor. And so sometimes the partnership comes at zero cost or zero investment. And another thing you mentioned that ESG does not hamper your day-to-day work. Like in Sculptor, they are still doing their work, but it's now on a bigger and a more meaningful way. Then you mentioned that investors are future focused. And an IBM research says that 57% of consumers are interested in companies that deal ethically in everything they do. And therefore, investors have their focus on companies that are going to grab that future. So investors are that focused. And you mentioned that there's free money, as you call it, in this space. So people should take advantage of that. And last year, something that sits more, I would say, personally, my bias is about creating more meaningful employment and meaningful spaces for people to operate in. You mentioned that in Sculptor, early before your collaboration, people work to earn and go home. And you mentioned that could get boring at a point in time, or that could get monotonous. But with the work you're doing with them, they are now coming to work more empowered, feeling that they are contributing to a greater purpose. And once people want to feel that they are contributing to something greater, their motivation and retention are a lot more than usual. Thank you very much once again for being with us and sharing those insightful thoughts with us. So at this point, I'll check the Q&A. Those who want to ask questions, please use the Q&A side. Put your questions there. I'll read them out. And Asenso and Nabila will help us speak to that.
Robert, thank you very much. And thank you to Nabila for that insight. So for me, I think some few things that I also picked that maybe just want to emphasize more is on the long-term view that you need to look at this from. Yes, when you try to do a simple matching concept of matching the cost and the returns to just 1 year, you may find it as a very expensive journey to go on. But the value, as we know, it's a long-term value. It's not one that is just a flashed value where you would just see it today and tomorrow it's gone. Sustainability has that power of creating a lasting value, and therefore, when we are looking at some of the few commitments that we'd have to make this work, we should consider and look at it from a long-term perspective. And I think that Nabila also did a great job in terms of the future focus that we need to look at this also from. That, yes, now you may be doing what, you may be going about your business the normal way, but we always need to think about the future. How do we want our businesses in the future to look at? How do we want investors to view our businesses? Because investors that are putting in funding for these kind of projects are looking at a long term and are looking into the future, not so much of your historic costs or historic performance that you've made in the past. But once you are committed to a higher cost, which is beyond profits and beyond the numbers, looking at more of the impact, definitely would attract some investors to look at your business. And then the last one again is the emphasis on partnership. The emphasis on partnership, it's very keen because, again, you do not need to change your business, your whole business model to be able to do this or to be able to go on this journey. You just need to find the right partners. You just need to get the right businesses. You just need to have the right initiatives that you are taking based on your material topics that you would have determined to be able to come to this point. So thank you very much. I don't know, Bernard, is there any question that has come up yet?
Okay, there's a hand up now. Sorry.
Yes, so good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nathaniel.
Yes, so I want to make a general comment, but I want you to convince me whether I want you to convince me, because that's what I believe in. I believe that like, one economist said, I've forgotten, but the business of a business is business. So when we talk about CSR and sustainability, it's just like trying to garnish something so as to make your brand attractive. And it's not even about impact, but just garnishing something so as to make your brand as attractive. And I will use MTN as an example. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. So they offer high prices on their products, and they get enough, and they just take maybe a percentage. I don't know the percentage. Assuming just take like 1%, just to do CSR activities, just to build schools, to show that, oh, they are truly a company that looks at more of corporate responsibility and sustainability. So that's my perspective, and I don't know how you people can convince me that talking about sustainability and maybe CSR activities is truly what businesses want to do, and not the benefits they get from doing that. So I believe that in doing that, they are even still thinking of profit. That's why they do it, and for maybe the whole community or country to see what they are doing. Secondly, the second point I want to make was that is that there is a bottle company, a water company. They sell water, and they are saying that they use a percentage of their revenue per product they use a percentage to help the cardio center at Kulibu. I believe that even with that, it means they've added a little margin, and like a little, they've intentionally increased their cost so that they will make their own profit. They will make their real profit. And the additional amount they've placed on it, they will send it to the center they are talking about. So generally, my perspective is that a business of a business is business. And there is nothing about sustainability. There's nothing about sustainability or maybe socially responsible activity that they tend to do just to convince us, because it's like they are robbing their customers, robbing Peter to people. Thank you.
All right, so sure. Thank you very much, Nathaniel, for that question. So I think that I'll say this. So Nathaniel, at the heart of ESG, okay, at the heart of ESG is profitability. It's not to say that save the world at the expense of your business. It's not to say that save the society or at the expense of the business. As you rightly put it, the business of business is business. And so now, even if you look at the pillars of this ESG, one thing that comes out strong is some businesses will call it economic pillar, which is to say that, yes, the business will even need to survive before it can do some of these things. So as you rightly put it, yes, businesses are in business to make profits, and that is that's the message in the ESG, that yes, you need to make profits, but do make profits with a purpose, as in go beyond just making the profit. I think you cited some examples, but I can also tell you that there are some businesses that are not even doing any of these things. How about that? You see, so businesses are going about their business, but now they are going about their businesses in a purposeful way. They are going about their businesses with other factors or other impacts in mind. That yes, I'm a business, I'm doing this and I'm doing that to earn this much. But beyond what I'm earning, or as part of even what I'm earning, how can I earn it ethically? How can I earn it sustainably? So that even beyond my business, the society will continue to exist. Even beyond my business, I can impact my society in a positive way. Like examples that you cited in terms of the schools and all of that. Yes, the business can do business and not do anything for the society. But businesses nowadays or investors nowadays are saying that let's go beyond earning our profits. Let's, as part of even the profits that we earn, give back to society to empower the society. Because once the society is alive and kicking, once the society is okay, once the environment that I'm even getting the resources that I need for my business to grow is okay, then my business can be still sustainable. So that perspective of doing this ESG at the expense of profitability is not right. I mean, no business will go on this journey and then will run the business to down to a loss just because I want to check some mark or check some boxes in terms of sustainability. And then also in terms of, you mentioned CSR and then sustainability. Yes, CSR is now a piece of sustainability, because in the past, I mean, there's been some evolution to get us to this point, okay? In the past, businesses were doing more of CSR as to how much can I contribute to the society that I'm in, okay? But now businesses are saying that it's not just about your contribution. It's not just about going back to build even the school in the society. After building the school, what's next? Are we able to empower the businesses, the people in that community, to even take the peoples to the school that you have built? Are we empowering them with job that they can do even beyond the school? So that is the concept. That is what the concept is about. It's about going beyond profits. It's about being purposeful. It's about being ethical. For some of these things, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, yes, there are risks associated to this. I mean, one of the biggest risks is what we are discussing here, and then even of greenwashing, where people will say things that they have not done, or where people will do this with some level of ambition, not just for impact, but still on the ambition of making more profits. But those things can be discussed. But at the heart of this ESG, again, to go back to answer you directly, is that business must continue to exist. And business can only exist if we are earning some profits on the business that you are doing, and if we are continuing to be in business. So thank you for your perspective. And this is what I would say on this for now. Bernard.
Thank you, Asensu, and then thank you, Nathaniel, for your very interesting questions. And we definitely will take away with another quote for the day: the business of business and business. And thank you for that. There are other questions in the chat box to maximize the use of time. I will lump some of the questions and I'll read questions that run along the same theme. I think the first one is asking whether we will make room for questions and comments after the slides are received and digested. Can that be arranged? The person is anonymous. I'm sure that can be arranged. We'll definitely send the slides to you. And if there's a follow-up question and answers on that, we are happy and excited to have the discourse. So the next bunch of questions from Joshua Okai. Sorry. Thank you very much. He's asking that what are the first steps a business should take when developing an ESG strategy? And how can they ensure it aligns with the overall business objective? So what are the first steps a business should take when developing an ESG strategy? And how can they ensure it aligns with their overall business objectives. Then the second one, and the last for this question block, saying that how do you see the role of government policies and regulations in shaping and supporting ESG initiatives in Ghana?
Sure. So thank you very much for that, Joshua. So the first steps that you take, I think, as we showed in the framework that was displayed earlier, was you cannot go into strategy without knowing your current state and your ambitions. So to answer your first question, that is what I would say, that the first step is about doing the assessments and then knowing what ambitions you want to achieve. Because strategy in simple terms is, what can I do to take me from, let's say, point A to point B? And you can only strategize if you know what point A is and what point B is. So in this ESG strategy, I would say the first thing is to do that diagnosis. And diagnosis, we put it in 3 buckets. One is about your maturity, because I said earlier that we are all doing some things, but maybe we have not consciously considered that as part of this whole ESG journey. So understand the things that you are doing in your current state. And then also, what are material to you? Because one of the biggest concepts that underlines this ESG is materiality. You may have different stakeholders that expect a lot different things from you. You may have some regulations that you are required to comply with that. So you need to have all of that when you are conducting your materiality assessment, so that you know that, okay, this is my current state. And with that current state in mind, having your ambition to say that, okay, with this, my current state, point A, I want to achieve point D. And therefore, that can guide you in terms of what are the very things that I need to do to be able to achieve or move from my current state, which is point A, to point B. So I'll say that the first step, again, in this developing an ESG strategy, is to do that materiality assessment, or is to do that assessment of your current state, and then also define what your ambition is. The first question is still loaded with, how can you even embed it into your business strategy? And that is where I think we see a lot of issues with businesses that we deal with. Businesses typically would have a business strategy which is separate from a sustainability strategy. But the more matured business we have seen is that they embed this thing. So I said earlier that ESG now is not just something that you do on the side. You need to consciously embed it into your processes. And that can only start with embedding it into the whole business strategy. So now we are seeing businesses define, just as they have a vision or a mission statement, define a sustainability statement that aligns so much with their vision and their mission. And from that point, you see them embedding it into their strategy, embedding it into now their operating model, having individuals even embed it into JDs, embed it into KPIs, and embed it into all the other parameters that are monitored. So that is one way that you can ensure that it's also aligned with the overall business, just as you set KPIs for your other strategic initiatives. Have KPIs in place that you continuously monitor, because it is in that monitoring that you really get some things done. Your second question about government policy, I think in Ghana, that is one thing, and not even just Ghana. Globally, we see that with the various regulations that are driving, provides that enabling environment for some of these things to thrive. So, for instance, now we have seen the EU issue this deforestation regulation, which is driving a lot of things in the commodity industry, particularly affecting us here in Ghana with our cocoa products and all of that. So we see that government policy and regulations are critical to shaping that. And, as I mentioned, for Ghana, for instance, government through EPA has now set up carbon credit office. So that in itself creates the opportunity for now businesses in Ghana to be able to trade in carbon offsets and all of that. That is one enabling initiative by the government. We've also seen governments come up with the country financing roadmap for our SDGs. That's one way that the government is also creating that enabling environment for us to go on this route. We've seen the likes of some of these industry regulators like the BOG come up with regulations that is shaping the banking industry in light of this. Even just last month, they brought the financial disclosure draft directive, which is in under review now. Just I think last week or so, SEC, which is the Security and Exchange Commission, also launched its Green Bond Manual, which in itself also creates another opportunity for green bond trading and all of that. So yes, the role of the government in this process is very, very, very crucial, and that cannot be underestimated at all. Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you very much, Asenso. We will take one hand, Benedicta, and then we'll come back to the room with questions. So Benedicta, please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard. In fact, not really a question, but it was with respect to the earlier question Nathaniel posed to Mr. Asenso. And I just wanted to add on just a little to that. The concepts of sustainability, CSR, and ESG, there are some differences to the three concepts. And ESG in itself is a form of metric that is used to promote the overall goal of sustainability. And the essence is that we are in an era of capitalism evolution. That's how I call it. So capitalism is evolving, just as our speaker Asenso stated. And so we're getting to a point where to survive or to thrive, factors beyond economics will matter to companies that will survive in the coming years. And these, the longevity of a company or an organization will be based on how it embeds all that we are discussing today. And so once it's the future, then it means that everyone must equally be prepared. And it is not just about it being a future, it's about it being a future that protects the environment and enhances the life of people. And I believe everyone would love to have a good working environment and have a safe environment where it does not negatively impact their health. And so it's taking the consideration of mankind and humanity into these whole metrics that we are talking about. And it is equally for our survival as humans, even beyond businesses. So that was just the little I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedicta, for that addition, all important. That helps drive the conversation home. So still, I'll say we can still use the Q&A room. I'm going to read the next two questions and over to us to speak on that. So the first one is, how can technology aid in the implementation and monitoring of ESG practices within businesses? And then how do ESG practices in Ghana compare with those in other countries you may be aware of? So,
sure, thank you very much. I mean, technology always has to be seen as an enabler. And of course, when it comes to ESG, that is what it is. It's an enabler for this whole conversation that we are having. You know, I spoke about earlier in terms of the framework that we adopt in helping businesses to go on this journey. One with the assessments. Once you have technology, you're able to have data, because this is data centric. If you don't have data, you cannot do a very good diagnosis. It's just like going to a hospital and not having the right technology and equipment to do a good diagnosis. If you miss diagnosis, you miss whatever medication or whatever strategies that you are putting in place. So that is the place for technology. It helps us to capture the right data and be able to make the right decisions for us. And, we also spoke about reporting. Without technology, it will be difficult. I mean, for financial reports, I think over time we've mastered how to get data, how to get some of your receipts, some of your invoices, and put the numbers together and all of that, and be able to come up with a good report that reflects, as the accountants would say, true and fair value of the business. Same for this concept of ESG. If you don't have the right technology to, again, be able to capture the activities that you are doing, it becomes difficult in the end to report on it. And that is one struggle that we have seen business go through, that is affecting businesses, that although they are doing great work, they are not able to report. And it's one reason is because they don't have the systems in place to capture the initiatives and the activities that they are doing in line with this point. So technology is an enabler for ESG practices within business. In terms of your second question around how ESG practices in Ghana compare with those in other countries, I would say that for now we are at the beginning stage. We are now having regulations coming from different regulators on different things for specific industries. So for example, if you look at folks in our businesses in the mining space, with EPA and all of that in place, they have done, I mean, they have progressed a bit in terms of the environmental protection. And even for them, they look at more of the environmental, because probably that's what's more material to them, the environmental and the social side. For other businesses like the banking, the financial sector, you see that from 2019 that the BOG put in place a sustainable banking guideline that has begun to shape and avert the banks thinking around, okay, what can we also do? Because if the regulator is asking for that, definitely you would align accordingly. So I would say that for now we are at the infant stage, or we are at the beginning stage, and it's mostly because of the level of regulations that we have. For other countries, for example, if you look at the EU, almost every time there's a regulation that is checking one topic or the other, even in terms of diversity and inclusion, in terms of even greenwashing and all that. Recently, there's one directive that they are discussing to curb the risk of greenwashing for businesses. And that we see is advancing their cause more than it is for us. But for us, it's just a matter of time. With regulations increasing in our part of the world, I'm sure that in no time, we will also catch up and be more matured in this space. Bernard.
Thank you very much, Asenso, for those answers and how important it is for us to know how technology aids us in what we are doing. Now, in the next two questions, how can businesses identify and prioritize the concerns of different stakeholders regarding ESG issues? And what are some effective ways to engage them? Then, what are some of the practical ways for sourcing for funding? I'll take the questions again. How can businesses identify and prioritize the concerns of different stakeholders regarding ESG issues? And what are some effective ways to engage them? Now, what are some of the practical ways of sourcing for funding? Senso.
Okay, sure. So I think how we have helped businesses to go about this is to do more of a stakeholder mapping. Okay, so as a business, definitely you have different stakeholders with different interests. You need to have a way of understanding them, and it can come from one, the type of business that you are in, the industry, the regulators that you are serving, and all of that. Those things will bring to the fore who your key regulators are, or who your key stakeholders should be. And from that, you should be able to plot them in some kind of metrics to know what is the level of interest or level of influence that this stakeholder, has on my business. It's in that analysis that you can know that, okay, for business A, maybe one of my key stakeholder is my employee or my investor or my regulator. And therefore, I should maybe engage them more. I should give them more information. I should consider them in my planning and all of that. So I would say that how to do that is more of one, understanding your business and understanding who you touch in terms of interests, and then doing that matrix to be able to plot what ways you can use to engage them. Okay. So Bernard, I see there's a next one on what are some of the practical ways of sourcing for funding. So I would say that for now, most of even our banks here have products related to one of the principles in ESG. The practical way is one for you to try to embed this concept in your whole process. Number two is to have good reports that we can all reference to, because some investors may be sitting maybe even outside of the jurisdiction, but just by virtue of looking at, let's say, your internet, your website or your reports that you have put across, they'll be able to know that, okay, this is what you are doing. You know, Nabila made a great point around it's about the future. It's about investor interest. So once they are looking at what you are doing, be able to value your company to a certain point that would have them have conversation with you that may lead to some funding. So yes, we can do that. And then, as I said, we can also connect with some of these banks for some funding, as well as the impact investing ecosystem. Depending on your kind of business, you can deal with even GEA for SMEs doing a lot. And there are some venture capital businesses that are also out there to provide funding. Once you are able to align your business or some of the initiatives that you are taking with some of these pillars in the ESG concepts. Bernard.
All right, thank you, Asenso, for that. I'll say at this point we have just a few minutes for, and I'll take the last question, and that's from Pakwesi Uku Dako. He's saying that what regulatory framework exists in Ghana to prevent greenwashing? What policy incentives are in place to encourage sustainable practices in Ghana? So he has two questions. What policy incentives are in place to encourage sustainable practices in Ghana? And what regulatory framework exists in Ghana to prevent greenwashing? Over to you.
Okay, sure. I mean, in terms of regulatory framework that exists in Ghana to prevent greenwashing, we currently do not have a direct one, unlike the EU that is putting up one. But in most of the frameworks that we have, so for example, even if you look at the Ghana Stock Exchange framework, there's a need for, there's a recommendation for businesses to do assurance over the information that they are putting out there. So if you look at, for instance, the Ghana Sustainable Banking Principles, it also talks about the need for us to, although not compulsory, but have some assurance over that, just like we do for our financials, so that it increases the level of confidence that anybody who picks your sustainability reports will do to have that confidence in it. So in terms of specific regulations that is making it compulsory for now, we don't have any yet, but there are recommendations in all the frameworks and guidelines that have been put out for us to do that or have that assurance over the reports that we put out in terms of sustainability. I'm sure with the coming in of IFRS S1 and S2, being driven by our ICAG, which is the Institute of Chartered Accountants Ghana, we are definitely going to get to that point where it will be compulsory as part of even the financial or the annual statements that we prepare for businesses to get assurance. Because once we are including this sustainability report as part of our annual reports, then the assurance providers will definitely have to give opinion and have to review and assure that indeed all the statements and all the assertions that you are making in that report is indeed correct. In terms of what policy incentives are in place to encourage sustainable practice in Ghana, I would say that, yeah, for now, it's more of guidance, it's more of recommendations from all these regulators to encourage us to do much better. For, as I said, in terms of funding, once you are able to demonstrate some of these things, access to fund and even the cost of capital for you, it's reduced, which is a good initiative. Even if you look at, again, going back to some of our IFRS standards, once you're able to take on some of these initiatives, and it's considered a worthwhile cause, you're able to get some tax incentives, some tax savings, because some of those initiatives that you would have invested in probably would be disallowed for tax calculation, and that would also be an incentive for us to go in that route. For businesses that are in the agri space, for instance, and are into these plantations and all of that, with the coming in of carbon office, the carbon credit office, it's a great incentive and great opportunity for you to consider taking on that opportunity that you can trade off some of these projects, some of these outcome of those projects to earn even further revenue for your business. So these are some of the incentives I believe are in place for business to also encourage them as much as possible to go on this route. Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you, Asenso. And I think that's the final question we'll take for today. So before I come back to you for your last words, I'll say things that I've heard today that, that bother around this I'm taking away. One is how so much important it is for government to put in certain structures to support the cause of ESG in the country, and how government levels the playing ground and assists that development. One of the biggest things I take, especially from the question and answer session, is how much of an opportunity ESG is going to give to businesses in our landscape. And regardless of the challenges it might come with, novelty comes with its own challenges, but putting opportunity above this, I realize that there's a big opportunity and a chunk of progress for businesses and for the community if we leverage the ESG strides and collaborate to create such a future. So thank you so much, Asenso. And the questions that came in from those are wonderful audience. Thank you too. Asenso, I'll come back to you for your final words as we draw the curtains on this. Thank you.
All right, sure, Bernard. So thank you very much. I think just to add to your points, yes, the questions have been great. And to say that this is something that has come to stay. We need to leverage on it to get the value that we need for our business. In any way, shape, form that you dice this, there's some value in there for you. And as a business, you need to come to that point where you analyze to say that, what can I do to unlock the value in this concept? Value can be in terms of value created, or even value preserving the value. We've spoken about how businesses are using this to even minimize cost and all of that. So we need to embrace it as a business. We need to look at it, go through that framework that we discussed in terms of do a diagnosis, strategize for this, implement, and let your stakeholders know what you are doing in this space. And you will definitely unlock the value in this concept. So thank you very much. Thank you to the audience. Thank you to UKGCC. Bernard, back to you. Oh, thank you very much to Benedicta and Nabila as well for your comments.
All right. So thank you, Asenso, for concluding our discussion for over 1.5 hours. It's been a good discussion. I know every one of us have taken something from this. Nabila, thank you for your presence and then giving us some practical aspect to this. UKGCC, always thank you for creating the platform. To KPMG too, thank you for being knowledge partners. And to our lovely people that join us and ask the questions and interact with us, we are grateful. Let's keep the conversation going on the platforms, LinkedIn. When a question is dropped, we'll do well to speak to that under the comment section. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's collaborate, as we are saying, to drive the value of ESG in our businesses and communities. So until next time or until later, thank you very much. Once again, I'm Bernard Jakwasu. Thank you and have a good day.